nothing but dust in its wake. They believe there's nothing anyone can do to stop it, but Yogiri could definitely do something if he wanted to. He has a bad feeling about this, but at the same time he can't leave that thing to just kill everyone, so he decides to kill it. After the darkness is killed, Lane's carpet bombing strategy takes effect and more destruction rains down upon the city. Yogiri can see the attack, but he can't sense any hostility, almost as though something is just attacking the city indiscriminately. This must be the work of whoever was testing him with the civilians, but while Yogiri was having this intense tactical analysis, he was buried face-deep in Donnora's voluptuous buns. This reminds him what he is fighting for, so he gets up to solve the problem, but that's easier said than done since he doesn't know where the attacks are coming from. Donnora looks up and she sees something she could never have expected. The bombs that are hitting the city are literally all the clones of Lane YOLOing themselves into the ground. They realize that this is Lane's countermeasure against Yogiri's instant death, and he can't really do much about it since she isn't targeting him. And the copies are blowing themselves up so fast that he can even see them. In that case, if all he needs is to be targeted, then Ryota thinks he can help. His ability class is a mayor, so he is able to see everything in the town at once and uses the information he has access to find out the next place that will get drone striked. He then teleports them all there, and as the clone is about to hit them, Yogiri makes it die before prompting Mokomoko to use her guardian spirit jazz to make a shield around them. The shield was some protective plating that can be worn under clothing, but thanks to Mokomoko's guardian spirit thing, she is able to turn it into anything from a shield to a suit of armor. Finally, now Donnora isn't dead weight anymore. All Lane's clones have been defeated, and Euphemia is telling her that she fucked up when she decided to go after Yogiri, but she still doesn't see the problem since she can just create more clones to attack again. Just then, the full scope of the instant death hits and Lane realizes, oh shit, I really fucked up. Still, she didn't want to die anyway. Elsewhere, a little girl wakes up from a nap in a coffin and receives a pre-recorded message from Lane telling her that she is a copy of her that was made to be its own separate person. This was done to avoid attacks from Yogiri, but we'll get back to that later as Yogiri and Donnora are about to set off from the city now that they've received some transportation from Ryota. Meanwhile, we finally get to see what the other students have been up to as we meet Ryuko, who is a samurai class. After defeating a monster, she enters her tent where a girl called Carol is standing. Carol stole Ryuko's phone because she wanted to get a look at the app she had for monitoring Yogiri. It seems they were both tasked with spying on him back on Earth, but as they check the monitor, they are greeted with horrifying news. Yogiri's first gate is open. Donnora has been put in charge of driving the Jeep, but from the way they nearly died right there, it is clear that she doesn't know a damn thing about driving. So she wants to switch with Yogiri, but he's already fast asleep, so it looks like she's on her own for this one. Since she wasn't paying attention, Donnora is about to crash into a boulder on the road, while Yogiri is having a wonderful dream involving this woman. We get a little backstory of who this woman is, and she is seen signing a contract for a job interview. She finds it a little concerning that there's a death waiver involved, but she's in too deep to back out now, and those bills aren't going to pay themselves, so she goes along with it. She asks if this is some kind of evil organization, but her employer assures her that everything that goes on here is mostly legal, but he does sound very convincing. He tells her that this facility researches curses, so her job will be to take care of a monster. She is led down a creepy red hallway and asks where they are heading, so the employer informs her that she is tasked with looking after a being whom they have dubbed Alpha Omega. From the description given, Asaka wonders if it might be a human, but the employer doesn't really know as he has never risked seeing the thing for himself. Alpha Omega has the frightening ability to kill anything just by thinking about it, so they brought in Asaka to be its teacher. It's already dangerous enough as it is, but imagine a toddler with no sense of maybe I shouldn't kill people for fun having that kind of power. That is where Asaka comes in, but if you're wondering why she was selected for this dangerous job, it's because she's the only one who showed up. They get to the bottom of the elevator, so the employer hands her a piece of paper and tells her you're on your own now before leaving her to deal with the being. She's got no other choice than to go in, but they shouldn't blame her if the world gets doomed because of something she did. She enters a room that has an artificial environment being generated and walks over to the house illustrated on the incredibly well-drawn map. Once there, she calls out to see if anyone is home and eventually comes across a little boy in the center room. She was anxious before, but now she's just enraged by the fact that the government locked up a child in this underground base. She's not going to stand around and let this kid become a NEET, so she forcibly drags him outside and throws him into the creek so he can play for once. Yogiri looks stunned for a moment, but then points his finger at Asaka and kills a monster that was hiding behind her. There's no concrete answer on what that thing was, but things like that show up from time to time and try to kill him. They probably got in by hiding in her shadow, but it's dead now, so there's no reason to be worried anymore. Yogiri speaks up and says he would love to play, but it's getting really late now, so it would be better if they did that tomorrow. Asaka realizes she may have gotten a little carried away and apologizes before finally introducing herself to him. But more importantly, Yogiri tells her he's hungry and it finally sets in that she is the adult in the room, so she's got to cook. In the kitchen, there is a fully stocked pantry, but all that is useless if you've got no cooking skills. She really needs to get something ready before Yogiri gets out of the bath though, so she goes for the broke college student classic, a cup of ramen. Luckily for her, Yogiri has never tasted this before, so he is really happy with his dinner, and while he eats, Asaka thinks of a name for him. She ultimately decided to name him after a dog, which was how he got the name Yogiri. From this moment on, she took on the role of being his mother figure and taking care of him. These were fond memories for Yogiri, but he is woken up when Danara yells that the road to the capital is blocked. She is surprised that he can sleep through her reckless driving, but he can't help it since he's tired from killing all those zombies back in the city. Besides, he doesn't even get why they need to head to the capital in the first place. After all, their end goal is to get back to their original world, and to do that they are trying to find the Sage Shin. So even if they don't head to the capital, there should still be other ways available to locate her. With that in mind, they decide to turn around and find another way past this mountain. But as Danara is backing up, she accidentally rams into a dragon that was standing behind them. They get out to assess the situation, but the dragon attacks, leaving Yogiri with no choice but to kill the thing. However, that wasn't the only dragon, as there was a whole flock of them, and they are all honed in and ready to blast them clean off the face of the earth with fire. Unfortunately for them, they were up against Yogiri, so moments later, they all dropped dead. They were forced to wipe out an entire population of dragons, but if you think about it, this is dragon territory, so Yogiri just pulled up and committed mass genocide in their front lawn. However, things aren't over yet, as a golden thunder dragon soon appears. However, the gold dragon doesn't seem to have any killing intent aimed at them, so Yogiri sees no reason to kill it. After a few moments, the dragon says they can pass and then tries to fly away in a hurry so it doesn't get killed. Since the dragon can talk, Yogiri calls it back under threat of being killed, and we are introduced to this little girl. Danara wonders why that huge dragon turned into this little girl, but don't let the details bother you. Right now, Yogiri asks the important question of why the dragons attacked him and Danara in the first place. The girl explains that they were trying to test if Yogiri was worthy of meeting the Swordmaster, but he has no idea who the Swordmaster is. The dragon can't believe they came all the way out here with no intention of meeting the master, but they just want to get to the capital, so there's no reason to take a detour now. The dragon pleads with them to follow her to the master since her job was to bring promising individuals to him, so she can't return empty-handed after losing her entire dragon army. The Swordmaster is supposedly on equal terms with a sage, so Yogiri agrees to meet him since he might have some clues on how they can return to their original world. Plus, they were kind of stuck here anyway, so the dragon promises that if they come with her to meet the Swordmaster, then she will personally take them to the capital. She introduces herself as Attila and guides them to the location of the Swordmaster. When they arrive, they find a lot of people standing around as they are also here to meet the Swordmaster and have a chance at becoming the next Divine King. One of the guys there thinks it must be against the rules to come here by car since everyone else had to walk, but the Swordmaster himself says he has no problem with it. You may think the Swordmaster is a nice guy, but you'd be wrong, as the first order of business after he arrives is for everyone to kill each other until there are less than half remaining. Yogiri didn't even want to come here in the first place, so he asks if he can just go since he isn't going to participate. Thus, the Swordmaster makes up a rule that no one is allowed to escape. The bloodshed begins as the participants begin killing each other, and as some people begin to target him, Yogiri sees no choice other than to kill him. But this time, he doesn't need to, as someone steps in to protect him and Danara from danger. This guy seems to actually be pretty decent, but he is glazing the Swordmaster way too much. He says there is no way the Swordmaster would ever actually want them to kill one another, so it must have just been a test to see if they would act dishonorably just because he said so. However, the man definitely just wanted to see some of them die. Yogiri notices some magicians casting an ominous spell in the background, so he kills them, and the good knight continues the glazing, saying the Swordmaster must have killed them for not acting honorably. They also notice this guy who was cosplaying as Gojo, the bisected one, but he's still alive and kicking, so he asks Danara to put that rainbow-colored stone in his hand. She's freaked out but does as he says, and as he holds the gem, he returns to his unbisected body. The Swordmaster has had enough killing for one day, so he tells everyone to stop and follow him because he is continuing the test elsewhere. Attila pleads with Yogiri to keep going along with the trial, because if he wins and becomes the next Divine King, then she will get a promotion and become his attendant. It's not like they have gotten any information yet, so they see no harm in continuing with the trial for the meantime. But this is getting more annoying than Yogiri would have hoped. They follow the Swordmaster, and along the way, the knight who helped them introduces himself as Rick. The bisected one is called Lionel, and now that introductions are out of the way, Yogiri asks what the big deal is about becoming the Divine King. Rick explains that the Divine King was a person who sealed away the Dark God long ago. But even though the Dark God is sealed, it is still a threat as there are many people working to revive him. Meanwhile, in the back, Dunora asks Lionel what that stone was that healed him. He explains that these are apollogems that can heal serious injuries and also be used for gacha games. He has always had terrible luck since he was born, so he would always end up in terrible situations, and more